Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are going to demystify an ancient medical system, one that basically maps out the human body like it's a biological circuit board. And get this, it's been used for thousands of years.
You know that feeling, right? The headache, the stress, that wave of nausea? We've all been there. But what if the answer wasn't something you had to swallow, but something that was already built right into your own body?
Yeah, just imagine. What if your body had its own built-in control panel, a whole system of precise points, like a biological blueprint that could dial down those exact problems?
Well, that idea? That's pretty much the foundation of acupuncture. So let's dive in and see what this so-called control panel is all about.
Okay, so you'd probably think a system this ancient would have, thousands of different points, right? But the entire complex framework, it's all built on a core set of just 36. That's it.
These are what are called the master therapeutic points. And this is the really incredible part. If a practitioner masters just these 36 points, they have the tools to handle something like 80% of the most common problems people face. I mean, talk about an efficient system.
Okay, so that's the theory. But how does it actually work in practice? Let's take a look at a few really common problems and see which buttons on this control panel get pushed to deal with them. All right, let's start with one most of us know all too well. Nausea. Whether you get it from motion sickness or maybe something you ate, that feeling can just completely derail your day.
The go-to point for this is called PC6, or inner pass. It's located about 2 kun up from your wrist. Now, a kun is just a traditional measurement. It's about the width of your thumb, so it's right there on your forearm. And what's really fascinating is that modern science is totally catching up to this. Research has actually linked stimulating this exact spot to regulating the vagus nerve, which helps explain its powerful anti-nausea effect.
And this is where you can see the beautiful logic of the system. On the outer forearm, directly opposite the inner pass, you've got a point called outer pass. And it does exactly what you'd think it does. While the inner pass takes care of internal stuff like nausea, the outer pass is for external issues, things like a fever or a headache. It's a perfect example of that internal-external balance.
All right, next up, another problem pretty much everyone has dealt with, headaches. And it doesn't matter if it's just a nagging tension headache or a full-blown migraine, acupuncture has some very specific go-to points for relief.
So two of the big players here are Li4 and GB20. Li4 is that spot in the fleshy part of your hand between your thumb and index finger. It's considered a master point for pain relief, and modern studies actually show it helps your body release its own natural painkillers, endorphins. Then, that's often used with GB20, which is right at the base of your skull. Research suggests this one can actually improve blood flow to the head, getting right to one of the physical causes of the pain. And finally, let's talk about one of the absolute biggest reasons people walk into an acupuncturist's office to begin with. That awful, persistent, nagging lower back pain. Now, you'd think the most important point would be, well, on your back, right? But one of the key points isn't there at all. It's a point called BL40, and it's located right in the middle of the crease behind your knee. Seriously, this spot is considered absolutely crucial for things like sciatica and general lumbar pain. And again, modern research backs this up, suggesting it works by cutting down inflammation and boosting circulation all the way up the leg and into the back. But it's not all just for chronic aches and pains. This system also has really clear protocols for acute situations, even for emergencies.
Take fainting, for example. There's a very specific 2-step process to help revive someone. Step 1 is to strongly stimulate a point called GV26, which is right in that little groove below the nose. This is like hitting the body's emergency wake-up button. And that's immediately followed by stimulating KI1, a point on the sole of the foot, which is thought to help ground the person and bring them back to full consciousness.
Okay, so it should be pretty obvious that a system this powerful comes with some very strict rules. This isn't something you just casually try at home. Safety is absolutely paramount, and those rules are there for a very good reason.
And I really have to stress this. This is not a do-it-yourself therapy. A perfect example? Pregnancy. There are several points, including that major headache point, Li4 that we just talked about, that are completely forbidden for pregnant women. Why? Because they're so powerful they can actually be used to induce labor.
This is exactly why a trained, qualified practitioner needs something like 2,000 hours of training. They're not just memorizing a chart, they are mastering anatomy so they know exactly where to place a needle and, just as importantly, how deep to go to avoid hitting anything critical,
like the lungs, major arteries, or, the spinal cord.
So, after all that, what's the big takeaway here? What should you remember?
Well, one of the most important things to understand is that it's a system built on feedback. When a practitioner stimulates a point correctly, the patient feels a very specific sensation. It's called qi, and it might be a dull ache or a tingling or a feeling of heaviness. That feeling isn't a mistake, it's actually the goal. It's the body's way of saying, yep, connection made, the circuit is active.
And what this all really reveals is this incredible bridge between two different worlds. On one hand, you have this ancient map based on the idea of qi or vital energy. And on the other hand, you have our modern understanding of neurovascular anatomy, the body's literal wiring of nerves and blood vessels. And what's wild is how precisely these two maps line up.
Which kind of leaves us with a final question to chew on, doesn't it? In our super high-tech world, could it be that this ancient blueprint to our body's own wiring is actually more relevant than ever for helping us understand and take control of our health?